If you could be paying less on your mortgage, you'd want to know, right? First Commerce Financial will look at your current mortgage statement at no cost and no obligation to see if they can provide you with a better option. And if you're in the market to purchase a home, they can also save you money as they provide some of the best rates without the junk fees associated with most mortgages. They've already helped over 225 Floridians save money this year. The options they have available are ready to help you with your mortgage or refinancing needs. Simply call 248-207-2404 or visit them online at firstcommercefinancial.com. Mention you heard it here first on Warchant. All right, welcome into the Warchant.com report. Great to be with you as always. The show brought to you by our friends at First Commerce Financial. Florida State set to take on Wake Forest this Saturday night on the ACC Network, 7:30 p.m. the kickoff there. Of course, coming on the heels of a blowout loss to Clemson to the tune of 45-14. Gene, you get the honors, buddy. Let's get started with this. You want to put your finger on why the 2019 loss was just as bad, if not worse, than, say, the debacle of 59-10 at home a year ago?
Well, they're not very good. That's part of it. But I did mention last week that the timing couldn't have been worse for this. For Clemson to have that scare against North Carolina, you could tell they were locked and loaded. They were focused. They were upset that bye week. They got to reset themselves. So they came out. They played on all cylinders, and it showed. But at the end of the day, this still, like I said, it's not a very good team. Look, I think Kendall Briles, bringing in Clements, I think you've been able to put a little bit of lipstick on a pig. You've been able to get more efficient out of that offense. But again, you're putting up more points against mediocre teams, but at the end of the day, the offense is as bad as it's ever been. You've got maybe the worst offensive line in college football. Has that really changed since last year? You've got substandard play at quarterback. So it's not very good all around. And I know Corey's going to talk about this in a minute, but the distance is so far, the fact that maybe you've improved just a little bit, it's not going to show up in a game when you're matched superior at every position.
It's overwhelming to watch, to take in, and I think our fans have got to be devastated as they watch the distance between what Clemson is and what Florida State is. Is there any chance of closing that gap anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative of what anytime soon is. Within the century?
10 years?
Yeah, 10 years, definitely. I think you can. I really do. I think you can do it within a half decade.
How about that?
A half decade.
Yeah.
You got to start recruiting linemen on both sides of the ball. You need a quarterback. Like you were completely overmatched with Clemson with offensive line, quarterback, and linebackers. Mm-hmm. Those have been weak spots for this program for years now, and they've been rearing their ugly heads for years now. Start recruiting better at those positions. That's a start.
Yeah.
You can't be awful at those positions. And I don't think they're awful at quarterback. They're just not good at quarterback. They're awful at the offensive line. And not having Janaris out there, obviously Kane being out, Florida State, you could say, is pretty close to bad at linebacker, too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Especially in that first half on Saturday. But I will say this. When we talk about the offensive line and making strides, no, they can't block Clemson. Well, last year they couldn't block anyone. Akers has still had a pretty nice year. Akers had no chance last year. He's had a nice year, and the offense has put up points against mediocre competition. Last year wasn't putting up points against anyone. So those have been strides made. But as far as getting closer to Clemson, no, man, I didn't see it at all on Saturday. Did you?
No, Clemson is a well-oiled machine at this point, and collectively as units, when you look at the defensive unit for Clemson and the way they play together, there's a dominance to what they do, and then you look at them offensively, they got the best quarterback in the country. The separation between Florida State at quarterback and what Trevor Lawrence is at Clemson is, that is a chasm that is too wide to possibly calculate. And then you look at the offensive line, which ultimately we always come back to, and it's infinitely frustrating. The real problem with this is that it's not an instant fix. You can't fix your offensive line overnight, Gene. I don't know what they can do in the near future beyond going out and getting a bunch of grad transfers again to try to help
JUCO ranks, transfers, that's got to be the fix.
Yeah, it's bad. But we got to move on past the Clemson loss. That game went as predicted. I know a lot of you out there thought we were crazy to point out a Clemson blowout last week, but you're wrong, and as usual, we're right. Clemson, meanwhile,
sorry about that, gang.
FSU let that loss really sting them. They didn't put forth much effort. It lingered for a couple weeks afterwards. It was really frustrating. Do you think this team is mentally stronger? I'll throw it out there to either one of you guys. I'll start with you, Corey, I guess, actually. Because I think we spoke on this before. I actually think this team is mentally stronger. It is an area where they've gotten tougher. I do expect that they'll play hard. Do you?
I do. And, it was good to hear in a weird way Marvin Wilson making his teammates run punishment laps for the way they were kind of pouting on practice after Sunday. Now, the alternative to that is maybe don't pout. That's one way. But if they are pouting, there is leadership on this team, Marvin Wilson especially, that is a leader that I do think helps this team rebound from something like that. And also they have experience with it. You know, we've talked about it before on this show about, I still think the worst Saturday of the season was the Louisiana-Monroe game. That was the one where it felt all-time rock bottom, even worse than Death Valley. It was just awful. And they responded the next week by going and playing hard at Virginia. They lost. They melted down in the fourth quarter, but they played hard and played well. They didn't just completely quit or fold. So I don't expect them to do it this time either. I think they have experience, good experience, answering a really tough Saturday.
And they better not, Gene, because if they do, the season goes off the rails for a second consecutive season, and then really a lot is at stake here, including Willie Taggart and his staff. I am curious as we move forward, the ramifications if they were not to be able to shake this loss and they go out there and lay an egg against a Wake team that can certainly score a lot of points. Your thoughts on the rest of the season if that were to happen?
Yeah, I mean, last year they let it stay in their heads for a couple weeks, and it cost them. They were horrible the next two games. They can't do this here. This is the next four games, in my opinion, the most important stretch in Willie Taggart's tenure, because your goals of this season, and they're very modest goals, and that's having maybe a winning record, getting to a bowl game, they're right in front of you, but that's going to be made by these next four games. And you've got, in my opinion, we're going to talk about these games in more detail later, but they're all basically around that 50-50 range. If you are a better team, you need to start beating the teams at the 50-50 games, the teams you're a little bit better than consistently. Fine, we're not getting blown out in some of these games, but you have to be able to do that. If you end up going 6-6 with an easier schedule than 5-7 last year, is this really any better? So, I mean, that's going to be determined. You need, especially these next couple of games between Wake and, I think that you better beat Syracuse. If you lose to Wake, you absolutely better beat Syracuse, and you better beat Miami too. So, in my opinion, this program is going to be made and broke by the next few games.
Big game on deck against Wake, who's coming off a disappointing and crushing loss to Louisville, in which they give up 62 points. But Wake can put up points. They put up 59 in that game. We'll talk about that team next when we come back on the warchant.com report.
Your home is one of the most valuable assets you will ever purchase in your lifetime. As a pure mortgage broker, our goal is to provide our clients with the best options surrounding that purchase decision. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance an existing home, First Commerce Financial provides 5-star service while saving you thousands of dollars along the way. If you are in Florida, call me at 248-207-2404 or reach us at www.firstcommercefinancial.com.
Welcome back to the warchant.com report. As always, don't forget to check on warchant.com for your listings around the country as to where the game watching parties are. And also, as usual, the hour in this show is sponsored by our friends at First Commerce Financial. Wake's offense is a good one, depending on if you're looking at advanced analytics, standard stats, doesn't matter. Top 30 offense, top 10 offense. This is a group that can really move the football. Now, there are questions at quarterback for this Wake team, and that's important because Jamie Newman, who's a mobile quarterback, has a shoulder injury. This is a kid that really has played well for him, and you guys remember Sam Hartman because he played last year. Another kid that can sling it, and they've got elite wide receivers, Scotty Washington, Say Surratt as well. So they got guys that can move it. They got an offense that's been clicking. It's a pretty good bunch. Newman has those talented receivers I just mentioned. Gene, talk about them for a second. Those are big guys.
It's crazy to me that Wake has the best wide receiving duo in the conference and one of the best in the country right now. You look statistically, these two guys combined have over 1,200 yards receiving and 16 touchdowns. To put that in perspective, the combination of Terry and Matthews, Florida State's two best, have a total of 630 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, more than double the production all around looking at that. It's crazy. And you mentioned the size of these guys, Jeff. Surratt, 6'3", 215 pounds, averaging over 15 yards a catch. The Washington kid is only 6'5", 225 pounds, averaging over 17 yards a catch. You throw in Kendall Hinton, who's their third wide receiver. These are 3 of the top 8 wide receivers in the ACC all in one team. So I don't think it matters who throws the ball. They're really good at that position. It's going to be a really tough matchup for Florida State to keep up with these guys.
And Florida State's corners don't make plays on the football against anybody.
Sure.
And so now you have a situation where you've got some big guys on the other end. They also have a 3-headed monster at running back, Corey. That's a team that really does want to run the ball. I think their offense is predicated on the run. Talk a little bit about what Florida State will see there.
Well, yeah, they average about 220 rushing yards per game. It's funny, I was looking at their stats in the Florida State notebook, the Wake Forest stats, and I saw that they average 220 yards a game rushing. I'm like, oh, okay, they're a rushing team. And then you look down and they're like 4th in the country in passing. Like, they do everything well. And it's not really, I mean, really the backs are, I don't want to say pedestrian, but they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
They're interchangeable. It doesn't really matter who the back is. It does matter who the quarterback is. That gets the whole running game going. I think he's run for about 300 yards, which isn't a ton of yards,
but
he is a threat, and you have to account for the quarterback, Newman especially. Slinging Sammy, what's his name? Sam Hartman?
Hartman.
Slinging Sammy Hartman.
Slinging Sammy.
I don't know that he runs it as much as my man Newman, so he's not the threat on the ground. So if Newman isn't playing, that will be a big deal, and that should help Florida State stop the running game. But holy moly, they got to be better than they were Saturday. That was an abomination. And they had been doing so much better against the run. It didn't help that 11 wasn't playing in the first half, but still, they've got to be so much better against the run, no matter who's at quarterback, because they were just pushed every which way, especially around the tackles on Saturday against Clemson.
Lest we forget, too, Wake runs a strange-looking version of the offense in which that mesh point, they'll hold it in there, boys.
For a long time.
Hold. It's really remarkable. I've never seen anybody do that, but Wake does it year in and year out, and they seem to do it well. If you look defensively, Lyle Hemphill came in last year to try to help out with this defense. They were a mess last year, and up until this last game, they were improving there. They run a 4-3. It's a pretty basic, straightforward scheme. They're not improving after what we saw last week. That was a tough day at the office. Carlos Basham, the defensive end, is a good player, one of the sack leaders in the ACC. You'll see him. This is a game where I would like to believe Florida State should get what they want offensively.
Yeah, you should. Number one, it felt like Akers was almost saved for Wake Forest. Now, he was playing in the fourth quarter of a 40-point game, which was a little bit odd.
A little strange.
But for the most part, he didn't get many carries, and it felt like they were saving him for this game, because this is obviously a much more winnable game, and that's somebody you have to establish. You have to run the ball. Florida State does not run the ball well. We understand that, but they do have a dynamic running back. Get him the ball. Laybourne had a nice game, certainly a nice carry. You've got to run the ball a little bit. You can't be one-dimensional, even against a bad defense, and they are a bad defense. But I think Florida State, more than anything, has to try to establish the run, which is what they try to do every game. But, man, push Wake Forest around if you can. If you can find it in your heart of hearts to push another college lineman around, do it. And get some creases and some holes for Cam Akers.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of desire. I think they would if they could. They're just incapable. One of the interesting things is quarterback for Florida State this week. And I wonder, do they start Alex Hornibrook? Do they start, obviously, James Blackman? We got no announcement at the time that we're taping this show. Willie seems to be coy on this, doesn't really want to give that information. I get it. There's a strategical purpose. Do you think they should just settle in on with one guy?
Yeah, I kind of do at this point. I mean, they tried the 2 thing. I mean, but I think let's go to game by game. Let's look at this game. My issue is you're going to have to score a lot of points. We all know that. Whether it's a race to 30, race to 40, 50, whatever it's going to be, you better score a lot of points in this game. My concern, if you start James Blackman, there has not been a time he started where he doesn't go 3 or 4 series in a row and just completely implode. I don't think you can take 3 or 4 series off in this game and expect to win. I don't see it's going to happen. So to me, just the consistency of Hornibrook, you mentioned how bad the defense is. I think just consistently getting the ball out to your playmakers, handing the ball off to Akers, not turning the ball over, not missing wide open wide receivers, I think that's going to be the key to beating this team. It's great if Blackman goes out and throws 3 or 4 balls for touchdowns, but he takes off the next 4 drives. You're going to be so far behind in this game, I don't think you're going to win. So for me, the consistency is Blackman. Then if he goes cold, you can always bring Blackman in off the bench and go with a hot hand, whatever that is. But I think you go with Hornibrook in this one.
Keys to the game, you just mentioned one right off the bat. He wants to go with Alex Hornibrook, wants to find some consistency. What's your key to the game?
Just try to have a semblance of a defense. Just try. I mean, again, if Clemson could have scored, if they'd have kept their starters in, would have scored 80 points.
Yeah.
Wake Forest is not as talented as Clemson. I know they have 2 very good receivers. I'm still not convinced they're better than Clemson's wide receivers, but they have better numbers for sure, and they're very similar. Mm-hmm. And you had no chance against those Clemson wide receivers. You did nothing well against them. So make some strides there and just make it hard on them. Make it hard on them. Clemson, it didn't seem like for half the game would even get a 3rd down on their scoring drives. It was just bang, bang. They got everything they wanted. They ran for 7 yards, threw for 15. Make it hard for them. Force some 3rd downs and force some turnovers. There you go. You're allowed to make a play, right?
See that.
Yeah.
Why?
After a bye week.
After all
One thing I want to point out to Corey's point about the defense, isn't this a game of key where you take chances on defense? I mean, the typical sitting back with the good receivers and all this, I mean, so what if they get an 80-yard touchdown here or there? I think this is a game you got, if you can force some turnovers, especially if the less mobile quarterback starts, you go after him. You try to force turnovers. And again, if they make big plays, well, rest your defense a little bit. I mean, leaving the defense out there and letting them go up and down the field as Florida State usually does in these games, I think is going to be a disadvantage for FSU in the fourth quarter. I say just go out, go balls to the wall in this one, go after them.
Well, it's a boomer bust team, really. I think defensively and offensively. They got to play fast. They got to try to win high-scoring games, try to create turnovers, and put pressure on a quarterback. But they haven't been able to consistently do that. They certainly couldn't get pressure on Trevor Lawrence last week. So we'll see whether or not they're able to do it, or will Wake run this the way they want to run it. And if that happens, that means your offense is off the field, and that's really infinitely frustrating. We talked all of this segment and last about the importance of the stretch run. Florida State has imminently winnable football games. It starts this week with Wake. We'll talk about that next on the Warchant.com report.
Did you hear that? That is the sound of Florida State football. Be ready, Noles. You bleed it, now own it. Check out Tallahassee's #1 store for FSU gear, Garnet and Gold. Locally owned for over 40 years, turn to their team to bring you the finest selection of spirited apparel and merchandise for every fan. They're always happy to see you and always happy to serve you. Visit their flagship store at 1504 Governor Square Boulevard, the campus shop over on West Pensacola, or if you're on the north side of town at 1400 Village Square Boulevard, and always on the web at garnetandgold.com. Garnet and Gold, a Tallahassee tradition you can depend on. If you're a Seminole, they're your store. Go Noles!
The Warchant.com report is brought to you by First Commerce Financial. If you're looking to purchase or refinance a home and want to secure the best possible rate, all while saving money without sacrificing service, give First Commerce Financial a call at 248-207-2404 or visit firstcommercefinancial.com. Mention you heard it here first on Warchant.com. Welcome back to the Warchant.com report, brought to you by First Commerce Financial. All right, this is a very important time for Florida State and this season. They have an opportunity, we mentioned it before the break, with winnable games, and it starts with Wake this weekend. But from there, Syracuse, Miami, Boston College, Alabama State, you would think is an automatic win. All winnable. And if you were able to do it, it'd be an 8-win season, Gene. I think before the season began, we said, hey, look, if they won 8 games, create some momentum maybe in recruiting, that would be all right. I guess let's look at these games, the stretch of 4 games before Alabama State, in particular this one, Syracuse, Miami, and BC. They're all losable as well. The importance of the next 4, fire away.
I think if I'm going to rank them, I think I'm going to put Miami #1 because there's so much.
That's a good
to
call.
me, that's probably the most true 50-50 game in this thing too. So you win that most 50-50, that's going to favor you for all your goals. And there's some other ramifications. Obviously, beat Miami. Willie hasn't beat a rival yet. He's not going to at the end of the year down in Gainesville. So this is your last chance to beat an in-state rival. You absolutely need to get this one. And there are still recruiting ramifications. We talked about that for getting better. Still beating Miami, the game in South Florida. I mean, well, you're playing a South Florida team. I mean, that is relevant. So it makes Miami the 4th best team in the state. You don't want to be the 4th best team in the state 2 years running. That's not good for recruiting because you're recruiting against those guys. So that's #1 to me. I think #2 is Wake coming up this weekend because Willie does not have one win on the road. He's 1-6 on the road since he's been a coach here, and that one win was against a really sorry 2-10 Louisville team last year. This would be his first, in my opinion, signature win is he able to go on the road and beat a pretty good Wake Forest team. So that would be huge. And then you're in really good shape to reach those goals of having a winning season and get into a bowl game. After that, it's Syracuse, just because that's a must-win. You can't lose to Syracuse at home. I know Boston College is without their starting quarterback now. I still just don't have a good feeling about going to Alumni Stadium in November that's been a house of horrors for even some good Florida State teams. I just don't feel good about that one, so I have that last.
I feel great about that game. Their defense is terrible. Florida State's going to kill Boston College.
Good.
But I would say that Miami, yes, clearly number one here. You got to beat a rival at some point. Should have beat them last year in their house. That would have been the signature road win.
Yeah.
Had a huge lead, obviously, and then you dropped DeAndre Francois back inexplicably. Could have run a draw and punt. You would have won the game. That said,
ACC refs.
No, that didn't help us either. That never does. But Wake is really important this weekend because it's a competent team. It's a good football team. You could go win that game on the road, get a little bit of confidence, and move on from there.
And you could finish second in the Atlantic, which I know
Yeah, that's true.
you're not close
It's a
to number
distant
one.
second.
It's a very distant
second.
second.
Yeah.
You can't see number one really, but it would be a big deal, I think, for the steps you're trying to make and how bad this program has been to finish second in the conference. And to do that, you got to beat Wake on Saturday.
Yeah, they're baby steps, but they're steps nonetheless.
Little tiny, teeny tiny steps. Just a little.
They can't be
moving
backwards.
forward.
They
Don't
gotta
want to
be
go
Got to
backwards.
be moving forwards here.
Don't want
and
to
they
slip
gotta
and fall.
Got to get a game here. All right, last week with our picks, I was 4-2. Gene was 4-2. Corey, just an average 3-3. And
Didn't lose money.
let's see how we did this week. Well, you would.
I would have lost a little. Yeah, I got it with the juice a little bit.
All right, Clemson's at Louisville. Obviously, I think we know who the better team is there. Covering the 24.5 off an emotional victory over rival Florida State.
Well, I don't know if that Louisville off the emotional. Satterfield's got him. I mean, what a great coaching job he's done. It's probably good for Florida State they played when they did because I think you can see them getting better and better every week. Huge win for them on the road against Wake.
Beat him down though, Gene. Beat him down.
Well, I don't know. I just don't know. That's so many damn points. I'm sure Clemson will probably win by 40, but go ahead, Louisville. I mean, that's just a lot of points. I'll go ahead and take that.
I'll take Clemson and lay it.
I'm taking Louisville in the points. That's a ton of points. Did you not just see them put up 62? That
get
means
up.
they're going to put up at least 17.
It's not Papa John's anymore. What is that? Where do they play?
I'll
What is
get
that
over on
stadium
both
now?
of you with that one, right?
I don't know what the name of their stadium. Louisville Stadium? Muhammad Ali Stadium?
Wake Forest scored 59 points on Louisville.
But gave up 62. Gave up 6
I
bills.
really feel
Gave up
pretty
6
good
bills.
about Clemson's offense going against
Well,
Louisville's defense,
true.
my friend.
Sure.
I really do. Oregon's at Washington. Washington's been disappointing. Oregon, had they not lost to Auburn, would be in the driver's seat to get to a playoff, but instead the Pac-12 is going to get shut out yet again because that's what they do. Washington is getting 3 points in this game, hosting. What say you?
I hate Pac. I've never gotten a Pac-12 game right in my life against the spread, but Oregon's a better team, so we'll go with them.
How about Oregon with a defense? Like a legitimate, that's the strength of their team.
I like
nuts.
I like Oregon in this game.
Me too.
Okay. Florida's at South Carolina. Florida went on the road and lost in Baton Rouge. Obviously a tough place to play, but I thought they acquitted themselves well. And I think they do have a good defense and a real quarterback. Best thing that happened to them was Felipe Franks getting hurt. Not that you root for injuries, but they found a quarterback in the interim. South Carolina with a huge upset over Georgia. How about that? Man, if you're a Georgia fan, that's got to be devastating.
I bet it would be. I bet it would be.
How about if you're an Atlanta area fan in general? I mean,
Yeah,
how
tough
has
week.
that been?
Yeah.
Tough week.
Tough go. Hey, but you know, the good thing is it's not like the Cardinals have...
They haven't slowed down since their 13-run outburst.
They scored a grand total of 2 runs so
Yeah,
far.
well, hey, they saved us from the Braves.
Okay, give me South Carolina plus 5.5.
No, I like Florida to
You're
win
wrong,
comfortably there.
You're wrong.
Man, I'm not. I watched that South Carolina game. Their offense is trash.
It is trash.
It is not good at all. And that Trask kid is good enough, man. He is good enough to. I know South Carolina's got a good defense.
They do.
But Trask can put up 28 on them.
Oh, the emotional roller
I do agree
coaster.
with Corey. I didn't get my pick, but I agree with Florida on that one. They have a legit quarterback. South Carolina, they had their big emotional. They're going to be down for this game. This will be Florida
I'm riding
roll.
that Will Muschamp cover bus, buddy. Here
They
we
don't
go.
have.
All right.
Florida doesn't have our man Coley calling plays either,
That
so that
helps.
helps.
That helps, yeah.
Sorry, James.
Texas A&M is at Mississippi. Ole Miss is playing better since the other quarterback has come in. They're getting 6 here. A&M on the road.
Boy, Jimbo's group hasn't looked very good, have they? They've been,
Don't score a lot of points.
They're staring in the barrel of a 6-6. Look at the last 2 games they've got. What, Auburn, LSU? Their last 2. They lose this.
No, they already lost to Auburn, Gene.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they did.
Was it Alabama? Who?
They still got it. No, they
They
lost
got
to Alabama as
Georgia.
well. They got
They got
LSU.
Georgia.
Oh,
and
Georgia,
yeah.
LSU's the last 2. I'm sorry. So my point is, they lose. They get the 2 Mississippi schools back to back. They lose to one of those. We're looking at a 6-6. How's $100 million look for 6-6?
75 million, Gene. Come on.
Come
Don't
on now.
overshoot
Close
it.
enough. Round it up, Corey.
Yeah.
Don't overshoot it.
Offense is struggling a little bit.
Yeah. No, anyway, I'm going to take Mississippi in this. I think A&M's reeling.
I think you want that to be the case. I'm going to take Texas A&M and
No, yeah, it could be.
I'm going to take Texas A&M. and
It's
lay
at
the 6.
Mississippi, right?
Yes.
It's in Oxford. Yeah, man, I like A&M to bounce back there.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think Ole Miss is very good at all.
I don't know that Michigan will score this weekend when they take on Penn State. I really don't. I like that Penn State defense a lot. They're giving 8.5. That's a lot for that offense to give as well. This should be an ugly Big Ten classic. Give me Penn State, lay the 8.5 at home with a whiteout at night, baby.
It's crazy because I don't think Penn State's very good. They're okay. They're
I like
decent,
the defense a lot, though.
But Michigan is awful. I'm with you right there. So, yeah, I mean, it's not enough points. Penn State, I'm with you, Jeff.
But I'll go with Penn State as well.
All right, now it's time for Florida State, who is, at the time that we're taping this, a 2-point underdog. Gene, you've led the way with all of these. Take Snuggy Hill if you're going to the game. You take that hill. Wave that flag. Garnet and gold, baby.
Taking FSU?
Well, I want you to pick first.
Oh, okay. The way you were saying that.
I'm talking to the fans to go get on that hill.
I know what time we tape this, they don't have the over. My safer bet is going to take the over in this rather than, well, no. I don't think that's going to be the line, but if it's in the 60s or even 70, I'm going to go over. I've got Wake 42, FSU 38. So
Whoa!
80 total points in
this. It's
FSU,
off the rails with you,
yes.
huh? Oh, no.
Sounds like an exciting game at least.
Yeah.
Riveting.
38.
Keep us down to the wire. What say you?
I like the Noles. I think the Noles are going to win outright, so give me the 2 points. It's going to be a sod game.
We don't need your points.
Don't need the points, we'll take them. It's going to be a sod game, so there'll be no grass.
Yeah, they're officially an underdog.
No grass left on Snuggy Hill.
Take it home.
Take it all back to Tallahassee.
What's the score?
44 to 31.
Gave a lot of thought. You gave
44
a lot of
to
thought
31.
Blowing them out there. Look at that.
They're going to miss an extra point. If you're wondering how they got to 44,
missed extra point?
6 touchdowns.
So
a field goal, but
Ricky
they're
gets
miss
back in.
Ricky's going to shank one?
Yeah, he's going to shank one, but make the field goal.
Well,
Ricky, I believe in you.
We're close on the points. I like Florida State to win the game 45 to 35.
Wow. Okay, so I'm the Debbie Downer over here.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what you've been
There's
watching.
optimism over here. These guys, I'm glad I could make up one on that because FSU's going to lose.
Noles roll big, baby. By 10. How about that? That's a beatdown.
Probably up by 30 at one point.
At one point, it's a backdoor cover maybe for Wake. Real late. We'll see. For Corey and for Gene and for Aslan, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.